Hello family. Welcome to BB Folktales. Please subscribe and leave a like for us. It means the world to us. Also, share this video to your friends and loved ones and turn on post notifications so you don't miss future videos from us. Thank you as you do so. Sit back and relax as we dive into the story. This is not about heroes who wear capes. It's about the kind of courage people ignore until it's too late. In the heart of Ibadan, inside a cramped compound where 10 families shared one bathroom, lived a boy named Chidi Okafor. Chidi was different. Not because he was poor, everyone there was poor. Not because he was weak, he carried water buckets that made grown men pause. Chidi was different because he almost never spoke. At 12 years old, most boys his age were loud, competing for attention, fighting to be heard. But Chidi moved through life like a shadow, watching everything, saying nothing. His mother, Mama Chidi, sold oranges at the bus stop. His father had died when Chidi was 5, leaving behind nothing but debt and disappointment. People thought Chidi was slow. Teachers assumed he didn't understand. His classmates called him the dummy. But Chidi saw everything. He noticed how Mr. Bayo, their neighbor, beat his wife every Friday after drinking. He noticed how the landlord's son stole from the other tenants. He noticed how pain lived in every corner of their compound, waiting to explode. And still he said nothing. Until the day silence became impossible. Amaka moved into the compound on a Tuesday morning. She was 14, tall and thin, with eyes that had seen too much too soon. She came with her uncle, a harsh man named Uncle Emeka who worked as a security guard. From the first day, Chidi noticed something wrong. Amaka never smiled. She flinched when people moved too quickly. She ate like someone expecting the food to be snatched away. Other children whispered about her. That girl is strange. She thinks she's too good to talk to us. Her uncle brought her from the village. Probably a witch. But Chidi recognized something else in her eyes. Fear. The same fear he'd seen in the mirror after his father died, when debt collectors came banging on their door at night. One afternoon, as Chidi fetched water from the well, he heard crying. Soft, hidden, desperate. He followed the sound to the back of the compound, behind the old generator shed. Amaka sat there, knees pulled to her chest, trying to muffle her sobs. Chidi stood frozen, bucket in hand. She looked up, startled, fear flashing across her face. Please don't tell anyone, she whispered. Chidi shook his head slowly. He set down his bucket, picked up a small stone and drew in the dirt. A simple flower. Then he walked away. He didn't know why he did it. But somehow it felt like the right thing. Over the next few weeks, Chidi watched. Uncle Emeka left for work at 6 every evening. He returned at dawn, often drunk, always angry. Amaka's arms had bruises she tried to hide. Her face grew thinner. Her eyes grew emptier. One night, Chidi heard shouting from their room. Uncle Emeka's voice, thick with alcohol. Amaka's voice begging. Then silence. The kind of silence that screams. The compound pretended not to hear. Mama Chidi sighed heavily but said nothing. Mr. Bayo turned up his radio. The landlord's wife pulled her window shut. Everyone knew. No one acted. Chidi lay on his mat, fists clenched, heart pounding. His mother had taught him to stay out of other people's business. We have our own problems, she always said. Don't go looking for more. But that night, Chidi made a decision. Silence was safe. But some things were more important than safety. The next morning, Chidi did something unusual. He knocked on Uncle Emeka's door. Amaka answered, surprise flickering across her tired face. Uncle Emeka appeared behind her, suspicious. What do you want? He barked. Chidi held out a small notebook and pencil. He'd noticed Amaka had no school supplies. Her uniform was old and torn. Uncle Emeka squinted at him. You deaf and dumb? Chidi said nothing. He simply placed the items in Amaka's hands and walked away. Behind him, he heard Uncle Emeka laugh. Useless boy, the man muttered. But Chidi had seen something else. For one brief second, Amaka's eyes had filled with tears. And in that second Chidi knew. She needed someone to see her. Not to save her yet, but to witness her pain. To prove she was real. Small acts became routine. Chidi left mangoes outside Amaka's door. He drew pictures in the dirt when she passed by. He sat near her at the compound well, saying nothing, just existing beside her. Slowly, carefully, Amaka began to trust him. One evening she whispered, Why are you kind to me? Chidi looked at her thoughtfully. Then he drew in the dirt again. A stick figure alone. Then another stick figure standing beside it. Amaka understood. You've been alone too, she said softly. Chidi nodded. Thank you, she whispered. It was the first time she'd smiled in months. 3 months after Amaka arrived, something shifted. Uncle Emeka lost his job. He drank more, slept less, grew meaner. The compound heard him yelling every night now. "Useless girl. I should have left you in the village. You're just another mouth to feed." One Friday night, the yelling turned to something worse. Crashing sounds, Amaka screaming, furniture breaking. Chidi sat up on his mat, heart racing. Mama Chidi grabbed his arm. "Don't," she warned. "That man is dangerous." But Chidi pulled away gently. He grabbed the one thing he owned that mattered, his father's old whistle, the one police used to carry. And he walked out into the night. Chidi stood outside Uncle Emeka's door. Inside, Amaka sobbed. Uncle Emeka cursed. Chidi raised the whistle to his lips and blew. The sound pierced the night, sharp, urgent, impossible to ignore. Lights flickered on across the compound. Doors opened. People emerged, confused and annoyed. Chidi blew again. And again. Uncle Emeka burst out of his room, furious. "You stupid boy," he roared, lunging at Chidi. But the compound was awake now. Mr. Bayo stepped forward, despite his own guilt. The landlord's wife appeared. Even Mama Chidi stood in her doorway, fear and pride fighting on her face. "What's happening here?" Mr. Bayo demanded. Uncle Emeka froze, suddenly aware of all the eyes on him. "Nothing," he muttered. "Mind your business." But Chidi pointed at Amaka's door. Everyone looked. Amaka stood there, face swollen, lip bleeding, trembling. Silence fell. The kind that knows the truth. The landlord's wife spoke first. "Emeka, what have you done?" Uncle Emeka laughed nervously. "She's my niece. I'm disciplining her." "That's not discipline," Mama Chidi said quietly, her voice shaking. "That's violence." Others murmured agreement. For months they had all heard. For months they had all pretended. But now, with Chidi's whistle still echoing in their ears, pretending became impossible. "I'm calling the police," the landlord said. Uncle Emeka panicked. "You have no right," he shouted. But his power was gone. Witnesses surrounded him now. Chidi stood quietly beside Amaka, his presence steady and calm. She reached for his hand. He let her hold it. When the police arrived, Amaka finally spoke. Not loudly, not angrily, but truthfully. She told them everything. How Uncle Emeka had taken her from the village after her parents died. How he promised to send her to school but used her as a servant instead. How the beating started small and grew worse. How no one helped because everyone was afraid. Until one silent boy refused to look away. The police took Uncle Emeka away. The compound stood in the courtyard, stunned. Amaka turned to Chidi. "You didn't have to do that," she whispered. Chidi smiled, a rare small smile. Then he wrote in the dirt one more time. "Yes, I did." The next few days were hard. People avoided Chidi. Some called him a troublemaker. Others said he'd brought shame to the compound. "You should have stayed out of it," one neighbor muttered. But Mama Chidi hugged him that night. "You did the right thing," she whispered, tears in her eyes. Even when it was hard. Chidi learned something important. Doing the right thing doesn't always make you popular. Sometimes it makes you lonely. But loneliness with a clear conscience is better than comfort built on silence. Amaka stayed with the landlord's wife temporarily while social services investigated. She started going to school. Her bruises healed. Her eyes began to brighten. One afternoon she found Chidi sitting by the well. "I'm going to live with my aunt in Lagos," she said. "A good aunt this time." Chidi nodded, happy for her. "I'll never forget what you did," Amaka continued. "You didn't just save me. You showed me that someone cared." She paused. "That's why I'm going to speak now. For other girls who can't." Chidi smiled. Courage, he realized, was contagious. After Amaka left, something changed in the compound. People began noticing things they'd ignored before. Mr. Bayo stopped drinking so much. The landlord fixed broken pipes he'd neglected for years. Mama Chidi started a small meeting group for women in the compound to talk about their problems. One night she told Chidi, "You reminded us what we'd forgotten. That we're supposed to look out for each other." Chidi said nothing. But he understood. Sometimes one person's courage gives others permission to be brave too. Months later, something unexpected happened. Chidi raised his hand in class. His teacher, shocked, called on him. "Yes, Chidi?" In a quiet but clear voice, Chidi answered the question. The class went silent. Not mocking this time. Respectful. After class, his teacher stopped him. "I always thought you couldn't speak," she said gently. Chidi met her eyes. "I could," he said simply. "I just didn't have anything important enough to say." And now Now I know that silence isn't always peace. Sometimes it's just fear pretending to be wisdom. Amaka wrote to Chidi regularly. She told him about her new school, about her kind aunt, about the girls' club she joined that helped abuse survivors. I'm studying law, one letter said, so I can protect people the way you protected me. Chidi kept every letter in a small box under his bed. He never wrote back. Writing was still hard for him. But Amaka didn't mind. You already said everything that mattered, her last letter read. You said it when no one else would speak. Miss Adeyemi, Chidi's English teacher, began paying closer attention to him. She noticed how he watched everything. How he helped classmates without expecting thanks. How his silence wasn't emptiness but observation. One day she asked him to stay after class. Chidi, have you ever thought about becoming a counselor? Or a social worker? He looked surprised. People like you, she continued, who notice pain others ignore, the world needs you. Chidi thought about this for a long time. I don't know if I'm smart enough, he admitted. Miss Adeyemi smiled. Intelligence isn't just about books. It's about seeing what matters. And you see everything. 2 years later, trouble arrived again. A new family moved into Uncle Emeka's old room. Mr. and Mrs. Adelik with their 12-year-old daughter, Blessing. At first, everything seemed normal. But Chidi noticed. Blessing never played with other children. She did all the housework. She flinched when her father spoke. The pattern was familiar. Too familiar. Chidi wrestled with what to do. Part of him wanted to stay safe. The last time had been hard. People had judged him. Some still did. But Amaka's words echoed in his mind. You showed me that someone cared. One evening, Chidi knocked on the Adelik's door. Mrs. Adelik answered, suspicious. Yes. Chidi handed her a piece of paper. On it, he'd written the number for a child protection hotline. Just in case, he said quietly. Someone might need this. Mrs. Adelik stared at the paper, then at Chidi. Her eyes filled with tears. Thank you, she whispered. Sometimes help doesn't look like rescue. Sometimes it looks like a simple piece of paper. Word spread quietly. Chidi had created something without meaning to, a reputation. People began coming to him with problems. Not because he had solutions, but because he listened without judgment. He became the person others trusted with their secrets. The boy who almost never spoke became the one everyone talked to. When Chidi turned 18, Amaka came to visit. She was in university now, confident and strong. They sat by the compound well where they'd first connected. You changed my life, she said. Chidi shook his head. You were always strong. I just witnessed it. No, Amaka insisted. Strength without witness is just survival. You made me feel seen. That's what gave me courage. Chidi understood. We all need someone to see us, especially when we're invisible to ourselves. Miss Adeyemi helped Chidi apply for scholarships. Social work, she insisted. You're already doing the job. Get the training. Against all odds, Chidi won a full scholarship to study social work at the University of Ibadan. Mama Chidi cried when she heard. Your father would be so proud, she whispered. Chidi hugged her tightly. I'm proud of you too, Mama. You taught me that kindness isn't weakness. The day Chidi left for university, the entire compound came to see him off. Even people who'd once called him troublesome now shook his hand. Mr. Bayo pulled him aside. You taught us something important, he said quietly. You taught us that good men don't stay silent. Chidi nodded. We all have a whistle, he replied. We just have to choose to blow it. 4 years later, Chidi returned to Ibadan. Not as the silent boy, but as a certified social worker. He opened a small office in the same neighborhood. Free counseling, crisis intervention, child protection services. People came slowly at first, then in waves. Amaka passed her bar exam. She and Chidi opened a joint practice. Legal aid and social services under one roof. We're partners now, she told him, smiling. Just like we always were. Together they helped dozens of families. Broke cycles of violence. Gave voice to the voiceless. The silent boy and the frightened girl had become warriors. Years later, a young boy came to Chidi's office. Quiet. Observant. Afraid to speak. Chidi recognized himself immediately. What's your name? Chidi asked gently. Obinna, the boy whispered. Obinna, do you know what your name means? The boy shook his head. It means father's heart, Chidi explained. You carry something precious inside you. Even when things are dark. Even when no one seems to care. You exist. And that matters. Obinna's eyes filled with tears. I see you, Chidi continued. Whatever you're going through, I see you. And in that moment, the cycle continued. One silent guardian training the next. Hello, family. We've reached the end. Chitty's life taught a simple truth. You don't need to be loud to be powerful. You don't need to be perfect to make a difference. You just need to care when it's easier not to. The world has enough noise. What it needs are people who pay attention. People who see the invisible. People who blow the whistle when everyone else pretends to sleep. Courage isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a quiet boy with a whistle. Sometimes it's a simple act that says, I see you. You matter. That is the most powerful magic of all. Silence in the face of wrong is not peace, it's permission. True courage isn't about being fearless. It's about being afraid and acting anyway. One person who refuses to look away can change everything. Be that person. Heavenly Father, give us the courage to see what others ignore. Give us the strength to act when silence feels safer. Help us remember that every life matters, especially those society forgets. Make us guardians of the vulnerable, even when it costs us comfort. May our legacy be measured not by our words but by whose pain we refuse to ignore. Amen. Amen.